You're listening to All Things Sports with Mike Davis.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Glad you can be here. Glad you can join me on another podcast of All Things Sports with Mike Davis. I thank you for including my podcast into your day. If you're listening on Spotify, follow the podcast. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, comment, like, all that good stuff. Go to the Facebook page to get in contact with the show for any comments or suggestions. I won't take up much more of your time. Let's get into it. All right, so I wanted to start the show off. Well, first of all, let me say happy Tuesday, everybody. I there was no show yesterday, no podcast yesterday, so I hope everyone's weekend was great. I also hope that everyone's Monday was great, starting off the week on a great note. My weekend was pretty good. No complaints from me. Pretty good weekend. So yeah, let's get into some things. Before I get into the topic at hand, I wanted to talk. Well, you know I like to talk about what I'm watching, and I didn't talk about this on any of the previous podcasts after Thursday. But as you should know by now, that I'm watching Snowfall, and the last episode that aired last Wednesday, is probably going to go down as one of the best Snowfall episodes that I have ever seen. Okay, so it's going to be some spoiler. This is a spoiler alert. If you haven't seen Snowfall, go ahead and fast forward later on to the podcast if you don't want to hear this. So, look, I knew something was going to happen to that reporter. She just kept pushing and pushing, and I knew that Reed wasn't going to let this go just that easily. I knew eventually that Reed was going to come for the news reporter lady, the newspaper reporter, and I knew he was going to end up eliminating her, and we saw that happen. And if you hear an airplane flying over, excuse me, where I reside, where I live, there is a Air Force base that's not far from here, and they like to fly over the area from time to time. But yeah, as I was saying, Snowfall, I knew Reed was coming for her. It was a matter of time. She couldn't let it go. I am very interested in seeing what happens now with Franklin's dad and what's going to happen with Reed. Franklin's gonna have to choose, because now Franklin's dad has no one to protect him now. Now that the news reporter lady, she was killed by Reed. So that's what this week's episode is going to be about. Can't wait for that. And my man Jerome wasn't playing any games. And when Man Boy's sister Khadijah was sitting there talking, I'm saying to myself, I'm looking at the TV like, what are you all waiting on? Just go ahead and kill her. You're gonna have to. You're going to have to kill Khadijah, because she's gonna keep coming after Leon. She's gonna keep coming after Franklin. She's got to go. It's unfortunate that her child was killed in a crossfire, but she has to go. And, she was sitting there saying her last words, and Jerome he wanted to hear none of it. I don't blame him. And he just ended up shooting her, letting her have it. And that was the end of her. They took care of Man Boy. Man Boy was killed on this episode. Melvin Gregg. I like Melvin Gregg as an actor. I didn't know how. I liked him when he used to do the Vines back in the day, but he did a good job playing Man Boy in this series. So hopefully he lands in other projects as well. But that's enough Snowfall talk. That's what I'm watching. I hope you guys are watching Snowfall too. If you haven't watched it, start all the way to season 1. Check it out. You will enjoy it. I believe the season finale is this Wednesday. I'm waiting on it. All right, so let's get on to the topic at hand, and that is, are the Denver Nuggets finished? Now, in case you've been living under a rock and you don't know, just last week, Jamal Murray, the superstar player of the Denver Nuggets, he unfortunately tore his ACL. That put him out for the rest of the season. It's unfortunate that happened because chances are he's going to miss all of next season as well. I don't see him. We're in April, so yeah, it takes a year to recover from that. So I don't see him playing at all next basketball season and then come back for the postseason if the Nuggets make it. So just an unfortunate injury for Jamal Murray. And right now, the Nuggets, you're wondering, hey, what's going to happen with this squad? Is there any tinkering that, Mike Malone is going to do? But, let's get into it. Are the Nuggets finished? All right, so like I said, Denver Nuggets guard Jamal Murray, he's been diagnosed with a torn ACL in his left knee, and he is out indefinitely. This is what the team announced last Tuesday. Take out that indefinite part. He's done for the year. Okay. Now, Murray suffered what appeared to be a non-contact injury during the Nuggets' 116-107 loss to the Golden State Warriors last Monday night. He crumbled to the ground in pain, clutching for his left knee and pounding the court with his hand after trying to split two Warriors defenders on a drive with 50 seconds remaining and the Nuggets trailing 111-104. That's what's so horrible about this. You're already losing the game. The game is pretty much in hand. I know anything can happen in basketball when when the lead is under 10 and you got a minute to go. It's a 7-point lead. Anything can happen. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where you can say, well, Murray should have been on the bench. It was the end of the game, and this wouldn't have happened. And that could be true, but we don't know. So we're not going to speculate. But just horrible timing for that horrible injury to even happen. So I wish Jamal Murray nothing but the best, speedy recovery. We need to find out, though, are the Denver Nuggets finished? So, look, here's what I'm thinking. My thoughts on this whole situation. The Denver Nuggets, they got to find two guys to replicate Murray's stats. You have to. It's going to be hard to replace 21 points in that lineup. It just is. And again, they are flying these planes over. And if you hear these planes in this podcast, again, I do apologize. I live in the area outside Atlanta that is near a military base, and they fly these planes over all day long. So again, I apologize if you hear that in the podcast. All right. As I was saying, though, the Denver Nuggets, they're going to have to find two guys that can replicate Murray's stats. That's just my opinion. One guy, it's going to be hard to just make up 20 points a game for just one guy. I do think you can split this up into 2 or 3 guys. Everybody just takes on kind of a little bit extra here and there. What I also found out while I was looking over what was going on with this team, the Nuggets, Jokic, the Joker, leads the team in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. Is this like the modern day Scottie Pippen, but in the form of a center? That's rare. You have your center leading the team, points, rebounds, assists, and steals. That's on some Wilt Chamberlain, that's on that Wilt Chamberlain level, And Joker's having a great season, by the way. He is having a great season. So, look, I can't even ask that guy to do more because when the playoffs come, he's going to have to do more anyway. So right now I can't ask him to do more. And it's different with him being the center versus your guard being out as far as doing more. What hurts the Nuggets right now is, remember, they just traded Gary Harris. They traded Gary Harris for Aaron Gordon. And that hurts them now because now you're in need of a guard that can score. And had this injury happened before that trade, I guarantee you they don't trade for Aaron Gordon. I guarantee you that doesn't happen. So, looking at the Nuggets, I said they need two guys to replicate Murray's stats, but the Nuggets are a deep team. I think they have four guys that they can split those stats amongst those four. If those guys can get it, if each of those guys can get like an extra, let's say 4 shots a game, they get 4 shots a game, they get an extra 2 or 3 points, 3 points, maybe 5 points a game. And maybe that will kind of help replicate Murray's stats. You have Michael Porter Jr., he's averaging 17 a game. You have Will Barton, he's averaging 12. Paul Millsap, who is the veteran on this team, he's only averaging 9. And you have the newly acquired Aaron Gordon, who's averaging 11. So with Murray gone, it's realistic that those guys could take his shots, and some of those guys, I'm pretty sure they would like it, who wouldn't like extra shots, So I do think that they can get those shots in. Still, it's going to be hard, but I think as deep as this team is, they can replicate Murray's stats. Now, the problem with this whole situation is where they're seated. Now, the seating can change at any time today, but as of right now, Tuesday, and today's date is April 20th? The Nuggets are the 4th seed, and they sit at 36-20. All right, the 5 seed are the Los Angeles Lakers. So they wouldn't be one of the teams fighting for the new play-in system that I don't really care much for. If the seeding stays the way it does today, 4 and 5, that means the Nuggets will have home court advantage against the LA Lakers. Now, if they avoid LeBron and AD, they can win and they'll match up against Utah. Because let's be real, Utah is more than likely going to move on to the second round if Utah plays Memphis, if the seeding stays the way it does. So if they avoid LeBron and AD, I do believe the Nuggets can beat the Lakers. That's if LeBron and AD aren't playing. If they do that, they can potentially reach the West Finals. Now, they don't have to worry about home court because we all know the COVID-19 situation has restricted crowd size and capacity. So my answer to are the Nuggets finish is a tale of both. It's yes and no for me. It comes down to playoff positioning. If chances are it's not going to stay this way, the seeding the way it is right now. I just don't see it. But for some reason, if it does, and if the Lakers are at full strength and they match up against the Lakers, it's over before it started, and the Nuggets won't survive without Murray. Now, if they play a depleted Lakers team that does not feature LeBron and AD, then yes, the Nuggets can possibly survive and reach the West Finals. So that's my thoughts, my answers to that question. It's yes and no. It's the different situations that await for them. But if a team, you were looking at to overcome injuries, I do believe it's that Nuggets team, because that team really is deep. Outside of Murray and Joker, Yeah, that team is about it's about as deep as you can get. All right, so let's move on to this day in sports. All right, on this day, April 20th, back in 1986, my favorite player, outside Penny Hardaway, Michael Jordan set the NBA playoff record for 63 points in a game. And also on this day in 1986 is when Michael Jordan set the playoff record for 63 points in a game. In 1996 on this day, the Chicago Bulls will go on to set the then record 72 wins in a single season. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today, folks. I thank you for including my podcast into your day or night or evening, or if you're in your car, whenever you decide to listen. So if you're listening on Spotify, go ahead and follow the podcast. If you're on YouTube, go ahead, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Like the video. Go to the Facebook page to get in contact with the show for any comments or any suggestions. You've been listening to All Things Sports with Mike Davis. And remember, it's your world. I'm just giving my opinion. I'm out. Peace.
You're listening to All Things Sports with Mike Davis.